I'm a PhD student in the National PhD of Heritage Science. And this is a project with the name of Culture Heritage Re-Exchange using extended reality, working on the communicating of Italian influence on Egypt, on architecture of Egypt, and also vice versa. This project started on 2021 as my master's degree thesis project with Professor Alfonso Ippolito and Professor Marca Grifo, and I proceed working with it as an individual beside my PhD. So my research motivation was working on the raising of public awareness of the culture and architecture heritage around them and analyzing them and communicating it to them, and also explaining and documenting the architecture and monument exchange that happened between Italy and Egypt through different eras, and also erasing the international tourist. Just one second. Tourism by using technologies and new mediums without the need of a complicated traveling process that was very like the world addressed it when it happened, the COVID-19. So the research aim is manifesting the link between Italian architecture in Egypt and Egyptian culture in Italy through understanding and studying the Italian architecture impact on Cairo versus the Egyptian monument impact on Rome. On this project, I worked on, or I targeted the 8 original Egyptian obelisks in Rome. And on the other hand, I targeted only 8 Italian influenced buildings and piazzas in Cairo. Although there is in Rome, there is 13 obelisks located in Rome, but after doing the studies, I understood that 8 of them were original, and the other 5 were replicas that were done by the Roman emperors. So, and also in Egypt, we can find 10, maybe hundreds of buildings that were built by Italian architects and had Italian influence. And we can find it in many neighborhoods in Cairo and also in Port Said and Alexandria and Mansoura and other cities in Egypt. But I chose only 8 of them to create the project's trail. So to speak briefly about the 2 locations, so the targeted location in Cairo is the downtown Cairo, and it was a suburban development done by Ismail Pasha, who ruled Egypt in 1863. And he tried to make this place was agriculture parcels. And Ismail Pasha started to work on developing this part to be a residential part and to make it more influenced from Europe to be a part as to be more located like to be more like European architecture, not Egyptian architecture. And he hired many architects, including Italian architects, to do this mission. On the other hand, the Roman center obelisk, we can know that the first obelisk that wrote in Rome was by Augustus in 10 BC, and the obelisk came from Egypt to Rome for 3 centuries after this. This is the maps of the two cities, and we can find the red dots that are the locations here, that are the locations of the targeted buildings and piazza that have Italian influence. And on our right hand, we can see the map of Rome and the red dots locating the places where the original obelisks are located. And by using these locations, we started to do our trail. This is a trail. The first trail will be in Cairo, and the second one will be in Rome. And the suggested trail is a virtual one that connecting the 2 trails together. So, for example, I suggested to start with Piazza del Popolo as the first point of the trail in Rome, as it is one of the most important piazzas to the tourists. And also, on the other hand, in Cairo, I suggested to start with a Liberation Piazza, where also it's or Tahrir Piazza. It's one of the most famous piazzas in Egypt, and it also located the revolution of Egypt 2011, and also connected each and every obelisk to another Italian influenced building through this trail. So, for example, this obelisk is connecting the Piazza San Giovanni with the Talat Harb Piazza also, and so on. For example, this one is obelisk of Piazza della Minerva, and it's connecting it with one of the most famous buildings that were built by Antonio Lasciac, and it's called Risotto Club or Sawiris Building in Egypt. And the methodology that I followed then was working on online inquiry to understand more about the users and to know how they know about their cultural heritage, either in Egypt or in Italy, and do a visual analysis of previous studies and archives, and then working on the 1D, 2D, 3D documentation. After that, working on the data elaboration. So the targeted user were the public, which are citizens and tourists, and researchers and architects. And I did an online inquiry for 30 persons to understand more about their knowledge about the cultural heritage, either on the Italian architecture in Egypt or the obelisks in Rome. And I found that many people, like it's almost 85% of both residents do not know a lot about the architecture or the monument. They only see it and they are having also direct encounter with it, but they do not know the history behind it. So I did archival document research to understand more about the both cases, which are the architecture and the monuments, and to know the background and gather the data that I will use later on the project. So and then I went to the next step, which is the 1D and 2D and 3D documentation. So for the buildings, for example, for the building of the Italian building, I started categorizing and classification the data that I got into three categories, which are general information, historical data, and physical data. So the general information is addressing the address, like we can know the address, the current name, the former name, and the historical data, we can know the architecture style, period of construction, and so on. And physical data, we can find also the number of floor, gross area, and general use and ground floor use. After doing a comparison between the 8 buildings, to know more about, to understand who's the architect and the date and style. So like most of the buildings that were chosen are Italian, and 4 of them were built by Antonio Lasciac, because he was one of the most important architects back then, as he was the chief of the architects and the developments back then. And also after that, he was the one who is responsible to build the villas and the palaces of the king or the Khedive. And also, it was obvious that the dates of construction of this building was between 1890 and 1910, which means that it was a very fast development that had done back then. And also the other buildings were built between 1911 and 1930. The styles that the architects used back then was the neo-Baroque and neo-Renaissance and neo-Islamic and Art Deco, and also eclectic style, which has a mix between different architecture styles together, and also affected with the Mamluk and Ottoman architecture that were in Egypt back then. Also, the same thing were done to the same categorizing of information were done to the obelisk to understand it more. So the classification were also general information, historical data, and physical data. And this after this data, I went through this comparison to understand more about the obelisks. So it was obvious that 4 of them, which is half of them, were built by Ramses II, and all of them have inscription on it except the one on Vatican. And the transportation of this obelisk were 10 BC, which means like a very, very, very old transformation. And the origin of this obelisk were from Heliopolis, which is a port that is right now located in Cairo. and only one of them was from Karnak, which is located in Luxor. And also, it was very interesting that each obelisk had addition, which is cross, metal sphere, metal star, and other ornaments. After that, I went through to the 3D documentation by using the tools and the methods that and the technologies like the 3D scanner to understand the obelisk as a form and where it is located, and to understand the environment around it. So this is the video showing the 3D scanner or the point cloud 3D scanning or the point cloud of Piazza della Minerva, the obelisk in Piazza della Minerva and Piazza della Rotonda. And those are were chosen as a pilot cases of the project of the 8 obelisks. After that, I went through the 2D drawings to understand more about and to understand the relationship between the obelisk and the elevations around it, and to show how the importance of the obelisk inside the piazza. After that, the pilot case in Cairo is the Khedivi al Cairo, which is suggested to be connected virtually with the obelisk of Piazza della Rotonda, and that I will show later on. So unfortunately, it's not very easy to use a scanner in Egypt. So I chose to use the technology of photogrammetry to have different photos from different locations to scan all the elevation, and to have a model of it, and also an orthographic image of it. So I can later, and then I worked on the 2D drawing to understand more the elevation and the solution that were used by the Italian architects back then, and how it was, how the Italian architecture, the architects were influencing the Egyptian architecture back then. And those are the elements that shows the Italian influence, that those elements weren't used before in this combination in Egypt before the introduction of the Italian architects to the architecture. So we can find the base of the balcony and this steel door with these ornaments, and also the cornice and the arched windows. All these elements were newly introduced in 19th century at that time. So the communication, and then I went through to the data elaboration through communication project by studying the architecture language in Cairo and studying the Egyptian monuments in Rome, and then using those two elements or two bodies and digitizing it to make it easier to make it explicit and to the public. And the communication project is a virtual teleportation tools between the two cities using a portal web and urban trail. Through the urban web, the portal web, we can explore and we can see the photographies, audio guides, survey details, and interactive maps, and also building description. While on the urban trail, we can find an informative totems to understand more the buildings or the monument, and the XR experience that will connect between the points, and also a real-time screen that will always connect between the two spaces or the two places, and to make it more interactive with the users, and to encourage the user to walk through the city to know it more. So here's the first pilot case, was connecting the Piazza della Rotonda obelisk with the Khedivial building through a VR experience that the user can easily have a VR set that is located beside the culture hub here in the Khedivial building. There is a culture hub that we can use to have this VR sets, and he can know more about the building and know more about the Egyptian monuments that Egyptian monument or obelisk that is located in Italian piazza. So the tools that is used are Oculus, and a table to for the Oculus, and totem to explain the project and explain the building and the obelisk in Rome. This is the brief description about the description of the totem itself. And then we will go to other project which connecting between Piazza del Popolo and Liberation Piazza. So it was also suggested to have a real-time screen that can uh, be like a screen that show in a live how what is going on to the other piazza. So maybe I'm standing in Liberation Piazza and I can see what's going on in Piazza del Popolo and also vice versa. So this is an idea that make people interact more between the two cities. They can see each other and also they can have like a virtual connection between each other. At the end, the this one was a suggestion of connecting Piazza del Popolo. No, sorry, I wrote it wrong. It's connecting Piazza of Vatican, San Pietro, with the building of Assicurazione Generali building through an AR experience where the user can have his mobile, they can see a portal and he can move inside and he can have like a 360 image or a 360 video that he can see while he's standing in Egypt. He can go to the Vatican by only by his mobile to see the surrounding and to understand and to have direct encounter with the piazza of San Pietro. And this is, if you would like to know more, this is the website that it's still in progress, but it has the pilot case that is connecting the Khedivial building with the obelisk in Piazza della Rotonda. And thank you so much.